So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am using some new software, which might prove slightly interesting because it usually does whenever I have to do something with this. But let's see where we're up to and see if we've actually managed to go live. Excellent. So that's gone live on there, which is always positive. So, and we've got at least someone joining us in this evening, which is lovely. We're going to wait a little bit before we have some more people in, I think, before I start. Oh, we're building people in, which is lovely to see. So I'm going to be doing the live this evening. My name's Gill, for those of you that don't know me. Hi, Anthony. Thank you for joining us. I'm using StreamYard this evening at Pentart's request, so that might prove slightly interesting, and then we might have a little bit of faffing around a bit while I move stuff around, but hopefully all is good. And we're going to change the image in a minute, I apologise if people go seasick, but I need to add some bits to the stream. Hopefully I can add, and there we are. Brilliant. Excuse me. So I have not been wonderfully well this weekend, and I'm a bit snotty and grotty. For those of you not in the UK, it means I've got a cold. I am COVID negative, so that's good. Hi, Simi. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, it's all again another learning experience, Anthony. I had to move my webcam onto a different stand to get it down low enough to get a nice image, but hey, we're there and we've got there, so that's cool. So this evening we're going to be making a home decor piece with lots of different items. Let me just pop this so I can actually see who is watching me and commenting, because currently I don't know that I can. Rosa, thank you. So I'm going to be using lots of different products this evening. I have the components from the Rust Effect kit, but actually we're not going to use them all of the time as a Rust Effect. I have the one component crackle medium. I have the metal leaf glue and the tacky glue, a lot of velvet powders, and also some of the metal foils in the green gold and the red gold mix. So we're going to add lots of autumnal embellishments. So that's what we get up to. We're going to make a home decor stand using the word thankful. Hi, Patricia. Thank you for joining us. And I have done a little bit of prep because painting's boring, isn't it? So I just thought I would do that. So we're going to start out with the earthy brown, which is part of the Rusty kit. In the kits itself, it comes as 20ml components, so they're a really good way of introducing people. And of course, for people who are not used to making crackle or rust effects, then you have everything you need in one place rather than having to buy big pots. So that's always, I think, an advantage sometimes, isn't it, to be able to mix and match your products. And I'm going to start by covering everything in the dark earthy brown. So let me just move over here. We're gonna have to if I'm off screen, please say hello. Denai, I hope that's how I pronounce your name. Languages isn't my best skill in the world, but that's what we're going to be doing. So this is a true mixed media piece using lots of different components, which is something I love to do. And well, I haven't made a trial sample, so but I do sort of know where we're going, so I'm hoping that it will all work out beautifully and we will get there, because you know, why not? It's a good time to plan and play. I've used all of the components before, so I do know how they all work. In fact, I've used them all lots of times. So I hope everyone is well and keeping things well, and we're enjoying the last of the summer weather, if you've got nice weather. And if there's anyone from Puerto Rico, I hope that you've survived the storms, and also from anyone in Mexico, that you've not been harmed by the earthquake last night that affected the west coast, or any tsunamis that might have occurred as a consequence of that earthquake. So we're just going to give this a coat of the as say, the earthy brown. And on screen it might almost look black, but it's not. It is a very dark brown, and it's a good base layer for lots of things, in particular for rust, and we're going to use it with a rust effect on the base, but also I'm sort of thinking it will make good faux soil at the same time. My plan is to have lots of different autumnal pieces on the base of my word, so it will freestand ultimately. So there we are. So that can go there, that can go there. Lodged that, so that's always a good thing. So there we are. Let's just do that, and we'll give this a little bit of a dry before the next stage. So that can go in there. I've got I'm sorry if my voice is going a little slowly. I'm talking, I think, at my normal speed. Hello, Rosa. Hello, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining us this evening. We will just give this base a try. Hello, Vasilis. Now, that is a lovely, lovely surprise. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I am really looking forward to meeting up with you in October. I actually managed to print the boarding passes off today, so that's a positive step in the right direction. And all is set. So this is a very different piece to your normal style. Thank you for this. So we'll just give this a little bit of a dry. The base doesn't need to be dried at the moment, but because I've got several steps on other things to do before I come back to that. So, hello Anastasia, thank you. So we're going to be making a mixed media home decor piece that's freestanding. So for those of you who can't read back to front, this is the back of the word piece, and the word reads thank you, thankful, because I think that's a very apt sentiment for this time of the year, when I think we have to really be thankful for the changing of the seasons and all that we have. So there we are. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to add a layer of the one component crackle medium to my piece. Now the one component crackle medium is what I term a PCP product. So you have a layer of paint that's dried, you then put your crackle medium on, let that dry, and then you add another layer of paint over the top. So it's a sandwich between P is paint, then the crackle medium, and then P is another layer of paint, hence PCP, if that makes any sense to anyone. So we're just going to pop this into here, and then I can stand it actually in the base while we do some other pieces. And then I've done one side of it already, because I didn't really think you needed to be watching me to paint the whole thing all of the way through. And it always takes a little bit of a while to dry, and I definitely prefer to let my crackle mediums dry naturally rather than heat dry them. But needs must, you can heat dry, of course. There we are. So that's what we're up to. And there we, oops, she says, making a mess. There we are. You don't need a hugely thick layer, but you do need a reasonable. I don't want runs in this medium, but I do need to have it covered. And as I say, I have pre-done the opposite side, but I wanted to make sure I'd gone through all of the steps when I was live, so that people can see how to build the project up using lots of different mediums. So there we are. So I don't know if anyone's got any questions they want to add at the moment. Please feel free. If you put them in the comments, hopefully I will see them. I can sort of double up and do two things at once. So please feel free to write any questions that you might have in the comments. There we are. I was quite proud of myself today. Because normally when I have to do anything new with technology, I have 50 fits. It goes wrong. I have to try again. I have to say that up just about on my own. Needed a little bit of help from the team at Pentacolor, who are always there to help us, which is great. So that is just going to hopefully go over there, and that can go there. And I am going to pop that into the stand so it can dry standing upright, I think. And if it runs a bit, so be it. So we'll lid that and pop that on there. Now for my decorations, we've got a number of different things. So I have some assorted pumpkins. They're all faux, made from polystyrene. And I am using two different products with these. So on some, I'm going to use velvet powders to colour them. And on others, let me move that over there and that into there. We're going to use some of the gilding flakes. So she says, making herself very sticky. So to help, I have, when I de-stuck myself, used just a piece of wire stuck into the bottom of my polystyrene piece to give me something to hold on to. And we're just going to add this little pile onto here, the tacky glue, which is the glue of choice for the velvet powders. I have to say I have got another trick up my sleeve, because sometimes life is too short, and for some things actually it's just easier to have use a different way of adding some sticky glue to it, and I'll come back to that shortly. So you can see it goes on white, so that can go there and it will dry clear. And these ones over this side already have the tacky glue on them, and they really are very tacky. For the other pumpkins, I want to add some metal leaf, and for that I am using the metal leaf glue, and I've used a similar approach, so we'll just add some of that to it. So if I tuck that out of the way, move myself around, there we are, and we can hopefully then be all on screen, which is always good. Hello Sarah, thank you for joining, that's lovely, it's nice to see you. So this is the metal leaf. I think it is better to use the correct product for the job in question, but I think the flakes probably would stick reasonably well to the tacky glue, but when there's one specifically designed for the purpose. The advantage of these is I can just then stick that in there to dry, on there, and I'm going to add some little bits of wood to these pieces for stalks because the picks that they came out of didn't have any. And these can be picked up, I think, reasonably easily in most floristry shops, though I have a feeling that in some parts of the world there are nicer collections than in others. But you can't have everything in this world. You have to learn to work with what you have, don't you? I think it's really important to do that. So there we are. So that one can go in there to dry. I'm hoping that this will dry. These will dry reasonably, because I don't know that taking a hot glue, a heat gun to pieces that have plastic or have polystyrene in the middle is perhaps the most prudent of activities. But we will see. I have done. That's why I did some of them up front, so that I at least had some that I might not destroy with my heat gun. There we are. So those can go over there, and that can go there. And I now have very sticky hands, which is a joy. Not. But there we are. So let me just clean my hands, because I will then have bits everywhere if I'm not very careful. So there we are. It's always better to not work with messy hands, because you get colour where you don't want it if you do that, and then you have to work out how to sort out the mess. So there we are. So I'm just going to tuck those to the side so that hopefully I don't get the next bit over them. Oh, there's throwing things on the floor, excuse the noise. So I have some faux plastic greenery. Now you could quite happily, I guess, paint each bit individually, but sometimes life is too short, and this seems to work very well. So we're going to mix some more colour, and to do this I've custom mixed some of the light green velvet powder. We'll just add much into there in a Tupperware or takeaway food container, because they're, why not, they're useful to use, aren't they? We might as well reuse things, and it will also allow me to keep my mixed up powders long term as well. And I'm matching these to almost the shade of my greenery, so that because I think you sometimes see the colour through. And so the next step for me is actually to take a spray glue. As I say, you could spend ages. Let's pop that over there. Painting each leaf separately, but life is too short. You'll see why. So this is just a repositionable sticky glue, but it seems to work because I tried it earlier on, and you can see here just how sticky this glue is. So that's there we are. You see, very sticky, but we need to get all the surfaces covered. And I think for those of you that can, Stamperia have something, a stencil glue that you could use. Pentacolor don't have a spray one, and I'm being slightly lazy by doing it this way rather than painting it. But it's also a little bit quicker. Right. Oops, she says that wasn't intelligent, was it? There we are. So that can go in there. That can go in there. I don't know what I've done with my pre-coloured ones, but there we are. Tuck those somewhere safe, no doubt. So that can go in there. That can go in there. Those can go there. And I'm just going to give them a jolly good shake. So not very complicated or difficult at all. And that hopefully will give me some nicely coloured faux leaves. And if you want more colour on them, you can spray them again and add more of the powders. So I've now got those, so they now feel a bit more natural than just plastic leaves might do. So let's pop those out of the way. And I'm really sorry to say it, but it's rinse and repeat. So I've also got some brown. All of these pieces came off the floristry picks that I chose to work with for this. So again, this is the earthy brown velvet powder. I'll add a little bit of that. And this is the joy. So fine, you can colour mix to your heart's content to get whatever shade you want. So, and that is the beige. So, all of these pieces will just add to the overall effects of the piece that I'm wanting to make, which is why I'm using all of these pieces. That might be a little bit darker than it was, but again, it's not important. So I'm just, hi Mary, thank you for joining us. I'm just going to spray that off camera. All I've got is some repositionable sticky spray here because it's easier than painting all of these separately at this point in the day. So there we are. So they can go there, that can go there. And then I think we might now have to tackle the pumpkins, and some of those are not quite dry, so we'll see how they go. So in this plastic takeaway pot, I've got some pre-mixed orange, and that was made simply by mixing the red velvet powder, and I've used the red, not the garnet, but you could use the garnet if that's what you have in your hands, with some of the bright yellow. So I've got a nice pumpkin-y orange shade. I'm not going for botanically correct. I just want a pretty colour. And before I dump my hands in that, I am going to give these a wipe because they are now incredibly sticky from just from that spraying of my repositionable sticky glue. So any stencil glue will work for that. Just bear with me while I get this off my hands, because otherwise I shall stick to everything, and that's clearly not a great thing. So Elizabeth, it's actually a product called Stick and Spray, which is a repositionable glue. So you could use stencil glue to and that will work very well, or you could just paint with the tacky glue and that will hold the stuff in place. It's just that on the leaves it's easier to spray than it is to add glue onto each separate page. So it's about what works for you. So hopefully that someone can translate that into Hungarian for me, because I don't speak any Hungarian. Hello Sabine. So these are the ones that pumpkins that are pre-painted with the tacky glue, and as you can see we can take them and add the powder over the top and just give it a little tap in, and I will be able to get rid of that because these are now much less tacky than they were beforehand. And you can add mixtures. You could add, I could pour over some yellow if I wanted to, but I'll get a coverage all the way through, hopefully. We might want a different tone for some of these pieces, so that we'll add a bit more red in a minute. So there we are. So this is, as I said, we're just covering all of these, and I can see some of the colour from my piece beneath it, and that's good because it just adds a little bit of variation, because nothing's exactly the same, is it? And the powder just makes it feel nicer and more realistic. So my next pieces are redder. So I'm just going to add a bit more red to there, and we'll give that another shake. So you can get lots of tones and shades just by mixing the different colours. And if I wanted it to be paler, I could add white. If I wanted it to be more dusky, then I could add some black velvet powder, all of which exist in the mixes. So you can see here how well my powder now matches to the colour of my piece, but I can still see the black markings through, which was the look that I was wanting, because it just adds interest, but the powders add texture. I know that I do want all of these pieces, so we might have to have a little bit of a dry in a minute, which is fine. We can do that. There we are. And it will stick quite well. And as I say, if you want to, at this point, you can add another layer of glue, if that's what you chose to do, and then add some more of the velvet powder over top to give a denser coverage. There we are. Let's clear this. You can see where it's sticking to the spray glue that I put underneath. I'm sure each country will have an equivalent to the one that I used. So there we are. So let's tuck that out of the way, and let's see how well this one will cope with a little bit of drying before we do the next bit. It's always a bit dangerous taking a hot glue, a hot thing to something made of plastic. But I know from past experience, if I try to add the powders onto the wet glue, it cakes and then just pulls off, which isn't a great look. So let me just, you can see the glue bubbling, which isn't really what I wanted it to do, but hey ho. We'll just pop that over there, and we'll give the metal leaf glue a little bit of a blast as well. Excuse me for rubbing my nose, it's not very hygienic, but it's better than sniffling, I think. There we are, so hopefully we will have these dry. As you can see, that these glues really don't take a huge amount of time to dry, so that's always good. Those pieces are made out of polystyrene, and I can see some of them beginning to warp underneath my hot glue gun, and that's the joy of Alive, I'm afraid. So let's just cover this last piece with some more of this, and it'll stick where it sticks, and that's fine. There we are. There we are. So we now have some velvet covered pieces, and we'll pop the lid on that, because we know what will happen. We'll promptly get those stuck everywhere. And let's have a little wipe down. I really don't like being very messy. Let's tuck those out of harm's way, because that is the velvet powders now finished with. Simi, I can't understand what you're saying because you've written it in Hungarian. Self-adhesive grind glue, that would be correct. Yes, that will work as an alternative. Or the Stamperia stencil spray glue that they have, which I know Pentart have in and can stock through Decamagia. So so it's worth looking for that way if you need to. There we are. Right, let's clear this, because that's the disadvantage of spray glue. When you're working, you get stuff every which way. There we are. So the next thing I want to do is to add some foils. So we're going for different colours, different textures, and when we're making these pieces tonight. So I've deliberately chosen 2 different colour mixes of foils. M10, which is green gold, and M11, which is a ready gold mix. And I'm going to use my old packet with that one, but there we are. So we're going to mix these up. So I'm just going to pop some of that into there, and then we're going to just, she says, throwing it every which way. And we'll pop some of this onto here. And working over a pot is really quite important, and you think I'm being very generous, but actually I can reuse most of this. It'll only stick with bits that have got the glue, so a lot of it will rub off, and you can use a stencil brush at this point, or I've got a scoochie for those of you that are in the UK. It's like a scouring pad. So there we are. So that will give me a variegated golden pumpkin to use, and we will add some more. There we are. We've got a few of these to do, but I think that what it does is give you lots of nice texture, and we can push the rest of it back in to the pot and give it a little polish so that it looks lovely at the end of the day. So that's one, and let's just, we'll do a few of these pieces. I just think it's a way of changing things. You know, it's all very well, we can all source cheap plastic decorations, but they look like cheap plastic decorations at the end of the day, because that's what they are. But a little bit of colour, a little bit of ingenuity, and suddenly you convert it into something that looks much more opulent, dare I say it, decadent. And you could, of course, ultimately give these a coat of varnish if you want them to be textured. The Pentart velour varnish would work quite nicely and give them a soft touch. But I found that actually these keep quite well and don't seem to tarnish with too much with time. So let's have a third one of those, and then we're going to swap to the other colourway, which is definitely more red than this. So we'll grab a little piece of this, and after the live I will put what's left in this pot back into the original pot. So one of these pots goes an awful long way, and it's good to just play. And I'm all about texture and colour variation. It's just my thing, I suppose, is the honest answer. So there we are. Let's just cover that. So we've got 3 that are, she says, breaking off the lid. There we are. So we'll stick that back in there. So let's pop that one onto the floor. We'll lid that pot. Hope I don't stand on the pot, on the tray, because that would be really helpful. Not. I'm going to clear that. Oh dear. There we are. That can go over there. That can go over there. That can stay there. And let's pick up the other colour now. Let's just pop a whole collection of that into there, because it's going to be easier. There we are. And most of that, as I say, will go back in. So this is, as you can see, quite a different colour to the other one. So we'll pop that into there and give it a good little push around. Just tap it on, rub off the excess and roughish brush to knock off the excess and to polish it. And if I put the two next to each other, you'll see that we've now got two very different autumnal shades. So this is the red green, which is the M10 variant, and this is the red gold variant, M11. So you can see that we're getting a nice colour mix of shades by doing this, which is always nice to have, isn't it? So just adds lots of extra interest to your project, and over time you can collect all the products that you need. You don't need to buy them all in one go. I'm just very lucky that I've got lots of them, but as I say, it's about building your tool case, isn't it? And if you collect lots of basics, then actually you've got them to use on lots of projects. So there we are. Look, I am definitely quite sticky now, but there we are. Let's just pop those onto there. And of course, once I've got these on, they no longer become sticky. There we are. And there isn't any way of short-circuiting this one, really. Well, I suppose there is. I could have done it all up front, but then you wouldn't have learned how to do it. So that might have just defeated the whole purpose, mightn't it, of having a live and with products and showing you how to use them. And all of these little bits in here can still be used on other projects. So I will pop them back in my pot for use later on. So there we are. So I've got some bits of twigs somewhere for those. So there we are. Right, let's pop that lot, or as much of that, into there and clear our decks of some of these other things. So that is the embellishments then happily made and tidy up time. Let's see what is going on with my crackle medium at the moment, which is on the back, and that has not quite dry enough. So let me just pop that out of there for the moment. So I said that we were going to be using our Rust Effect kit, and as I say, I've got already the bigger pots and some texture powders, because instead of having mine looking a bit like rust, I actually sort of thought that these colours would work quite well to make faux soil. I think one of the problems with something being labelled as a specific kit is that people then forget that actually the kit contains paints, acrylic paints that can be used for lots of other things, and some 3D powder, the fine one, that can be used again for other things, which is one of the reasons why I thought I would just go a little bit outside the box today. So what have I added? I've added, this one is reddish brown, this one is red clay, and if you're making a proper rust, you would add ochre. And if you've got properly clay soil in the UK, then again you might find areas of yellow, but you're not going to want very much of that. So let's just pop those onto there. That can go there. So I also want to add some texture to my piece. So I have here the fine 3D powder, which is in the rust set, but I've got a big pot of it, so I'll add a little bit of that. And I have got some of the coarse 3D powder, which will add a little bit more texture, and I'll probably need some more paint. And the 3D balls, well, these are the small ones I'm going to use later on. So let's just give that a little knock down there. We're running out of space. That's always a good thing. Not, but there we are. So that can go there. And I'm deliberately using some well and truly abused brushes at this point, because I found that if I'm not very careful, actually what happens is that I promptly wreck them by having all of the texture mixed in. So I'm just literally going to add this higgledy-piggledy over my base. No skill required, which is always good, isn't it? Yeah. So I'm wanting to add colours and textures. Some of this will come off, and that's absolutely fine. I don't necessarily want it all to be that orange colour, clay colour, but it won't be by the time we're finished. We'll add some of this, and I'm rough mixing my colours on my piece, and that's intentional, because that way I'm going to get lots of different shading in amongst it, and also some more texture and more colour. So I get sort of a variegated muddy mix, for want of a better way of describing it. But that's what I was hoping, you know, that's where I was wanting this project to go, was to have a you know, the appearance of my word on a muddy textured background. So I've clearly not put enough paint in there of the colour that I'm preferring to use. So let's just add a bit more of that darker brown to it. There we are. And this is just a paper mat, and that was more of the earthy brown. So there we are. Let's just add this in. So we're getting colour, texture. Some of this will fall off, some of it won't, and that's equally cool, because it's not going to, it's a base rather than having something with lots of detail. And we're going to be adding embellishments over the top of it anyway, so actually it doesn't really matter, does it, what it's going to be like. And if I want more texture, I can always add pieces. But now I definitely don't want that lurking in that hole, so let me see if I can find something to flick out the pieces, because otherwise my word isn't going to go in there. So we now have a piece that's got colour variation and a little bit of texture, and we can add other bits as we want to. So there we are. Might get, there we are. So that will go there. I'm going to pop that out of harm's way, but we're going to come back to those paints, and it's clear down time, because we have got a veritable mess here, and it's not good to work in a mess. As I say, you end up contaminating things. So let me just pop that all off to the side. That can go over there to dry. Now then, this is our word. I'm going to give that a little bit of a blast, because it's still a little bit tacky on this side. Sorry ladies, I'm a bit discombobulated, having moved from OBS to this, and having changed my camera setup a little bit, but we'll get there. So this is a little bit tacky, but not too tacky. So, and I've pre-done the other side. So let's just take this, and we're going to now use some more of our colours. So I'm going to, as my top layer, I'm going to add some of the red clay. I'll pop that there. I don't want this to have the texture in it. I can always put back or I can decant. And I'm going to add some of the ochre. Let's find a clean palette knife as well. There we are. So we'll pop those to the side because we may well need those back if we haven't picked up enough. And you could just paint these on, but I'm deliberately going to load my brush with bits, and I'm just going to tap my paint mix over. I might want to, so I can get variations in colours as I go. And it's important with this that you don't overwork what you're using, because once it started to crackle, if you're not very careful, then actually your next layer will that you dab on will promptly take off the layer that you've just put on. And what I'm wanting ultimately when this is dry is to be able to see the brown through. Thank you, Sabine. I am absolutely looking forward to my journey to Athens soon. For those that don't know what we're talking about, then have a little look at either Sabine's pages or Vasilis's pages, because they are, the information is on those if anyone wishes to join us. So I'm going to give this a little glass dry because I've got the other side to do. And I can see that this is beginning to crackle, and I've got a different effect. So, but I need to do both sides of this. So just bear with while we dry this. It's a very different way of crafting, Sabine. I don't do lots of furniture upcycling, much as I love the results that you can get, but I do make lots of home decor mixed media pieces, and I really love experimenting with what's here. So I don't know, can we see how? Yes, you can see on here just how well that has crackled, and I've got the dark sitting beneath it, and I've got the mix of the red clay and the ochre paint. So again, I think two very autumnal colours, and there's no short-circuiting doing things like that. Hi, hello Julie, thank you for joining us. I enjoyed your live the other day. I liked the project you did very much with the Vagabond in Japan. It was lovely to see it coming to life. So for those of you that are in the UK, this base comes from Dawn Bibby, but I'm sure that in most countries you could get a word that represented autumn cut for you to go into MDF, or of course you could you can just adapt the techniques to anything that you wanted, because there isn't any set rules, of course, is there, when it comes to this. I just need to get this dry. It's okay, Julie. We're all very, very busy, and the Facebook live schedule is a bit hit and miss, isn't it? There's so many going on all around the place. So there we are. Hopefully that will stay intact now. And I can see already that I'm going to need some more of this paint for the other side, but we are getting there. So let's just pop that into there, and we'll add a bit more of the yellow. So I really like the fact that these colours work so well together, and that's the advantage of using a set that's been designed to work together to give you a particular effect. So those can go in the wash, and hopefully we can now cover the back. Let's get rid of that. And say we'll get an ombre mix because that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want it all to be a single colour, and I'm just pouncing. If you take a paintbrush and add your colour, then you will get more linear streaking than with this pouncing technique. So it really does depend on the effect that you want as to how you apply your top layer. This for me works for a very fine crackle, but again, it doesn't really matter, does it? It's about what you like, and if it's easier for you to pop it on with with a paintbrush instead of a sponging action, then that's absolutely the right thing to do for you, isn't it? So there we are. Try desperately not to mix these up. I'm going to have filthy hands at the end of this, guaranteed. I knew I shouldn't have put those brushes or palette knives away, because it's guaranteed that I'm going to now need some more, isn't it? Well, no, never mind. I'll move this across, and we're going to move this last because I don't really want to be getting more out and it wasted. There we are. So that can go there, that can go there, and this is already on the back beginning to crackle, but we now need it to dry. So just bear with me, ladies, while we get this. Thank you, Sarah. I'm glad you like it. It's a great technique. I love all of the Pentacolor crackles, so to be fair, I really do enjoy using them all. They each have their place. They each give very different effects. And they're, again, so worth having in the crafty stash. Better not get those too near those, because they are going to melt if I'm not very careful. She says, trying to tell you what, I'm going to leave that there and give my hands a jolly good clean, because there is only so much yuck a lady can cope with, and my hands have got to the stage of being particularly revolting, and I might need to get, after the live, to get the rest of this off, I might well end up needing to get some of the hand sanitizer out of the cupboard to get some of the, where it's stuck with the sticky glue, off. Or some WD-40 would work. Thought it was 7. It's okay. It's because in Hungary they're an hour ahead of us, and it's designed to catch us all out. It's something I regularly do, but of course it will be here for you to watch up. And I do have a live next week on crafting together with all brands. So if you want me to recap anything, then I can do it at that point. So that's that piece. Now then, let's see if this is reasonably dry. I'll give the base a dry. Let's take the stray brush hair out of the way. It's when it gets to lives in America that I really get confused, I have to say, because of all of their different time zones. There we are. Cool. So hopefully that will now just slot into there. So we now have our word in our piece, and I'm going to just pop that there. Let's use something to help make it, angle it sufficiently for people to see what I'm doing. That doesn't look too bad. Let's move that for the time being. It's always difficult, isn't it, trying to do a 3D project. There we are. Excellent. Hot glue gun required at this stage, otherwise we might be here until the cows come home, and that's maybe not what we want to be doing. There we go. So that needs just to slot in there a little bit better than it was. There we are. Cool. So I have raided my floristry wholesalers, and I have some moss because I'm wanting a rusticy feel. So I'm just going to pop a bit of this down. Obviously I would do both, both sides when but we'll do one side at a time because why not? There we are. And this will also help keep everything together. And it's just, again, it's about adding texture and depth and interest to our makes. So from there, okay, that will do for the moment. So what have I got? I have, now I know I don't need this little spiky bit because that's the base, and I'm going to pop that into there. So let's just add some good generous amount of hot glue to there. Now you could just as easily add gel medium to this for speed, and for your instant stick during a live. I'm using the hot glue gun, but again, if you're making stuff for yourself, you might want to choose to use some gel medium and just be more patient. But time is not generally something that we have the most of in the middle of a live. So there we are. We're going to take one of our covered pieces, and that's one without a stalk. So that's, there we are. We'll stick that into there. So let us find, because I raided the garden, because why wouldn't you? This is literally a twig, so we're going to just add a little dab of hot glue onto there, and there we are. We can add a little stalk to our pumpkin. That one already has a stalk on it, so we're going to pop that there. And we're going to take that off, and we're going to add one of these gourds into the mix because it's about adding variety. So there we are. So I think that one can go there, just on the wonk intentionally. And of course we need things in sets that are not quite identical. So we'll pop that one into there, and the set of 3. The other pieces will go on the back. So that's cool. And we might take our bigger pumpkin and pop that into there. Now at this point, where you go is up to you. So I now have, of course, my leaves that I pre-prepared, and I might need to chop some of these down, and I need to be mindful that I've got ones to go on the other side as well. So let's just pop that out of the way, right there, and we're going to take, and we're just going to add in some of this greenery or brownery as this particular piece might happen to be. And I've got all sorts of other pieces that I haven't added colour to as well. And these will just help to fill in the spaces and to add extra texture and detail to my piece. So there we are. And we might get swapped to some of the green pieces. There we are. The pumpkins, Sarah Lou, are from a local florist, so you should be able to pick them up anywhere. There are lots of places that do the faux pumpkins that you can get hold of. You can PM me and I will tell you where I got them from with pleasure. But really, just go hunt your local forestry wholesalers and they'll have lots of different pieces that you can use. I'm sure that, you know, to make something that's similar. I think it's impossible to, yeah, she says, using hot glue and burn her fingers. There we are. Let's get rid of some of those strands. Because this is the joy, isn't it, of things like this. You end up with bits every which way. Come on, mister. I didn't really want you to come off there, but hey ho. You obviously weren't poked down well enough. There we are. And yeah, I think around the UK there are lots of different floristry wholesalers, aren't there, that we can go raid. I've got all sorts of bits here. So I've got, these are like helichrysum, the straw flower. There we are. So we've, because, and again, at this time of the year, are you doing a dawn bibby with your fingers, Sarah? I hope not. But yes, it is an occupational hazard, I think, of having a hot glue gun in one's hand, is getting caught with burns from hot glue guns. And Sarah, you should absolutely know where these pieces come from, because you've just said one of the suppliers quite happily to everyone. So there we are, that can go into there. So 4, and I've got plenty of these, so I will go and grab the next lot in a minute. Hot glue is a nightmare. Well, yeah, and I have to say that globally, what I would do is actually not be using a hot glue gun at all. I would be you know, using gel medium for these pieces, but it's just not practical in the for alive, because yeah, we would be here forever whilst we were waiting for it to dry and settle. So it's beginning to look halfway respectable. So there we are. So the helichrysum come on long sticks. They'll be good as paint stirrers, because I think these are plastic. There we are. So now we have a good mix, which again are faux berries and pieces and some twiggy bits. So I might add some extra pieces that would work tucked into there. So this is now about composition and adding pieces to your heart's content until you like the end result. And for those of you that have seen my lives before, you'll know that actually I quite often after a live don't go away and tinker with my pieces before I photograph them, because I think sometimes it's good to walk away from projects actually and come back to see what they're like when you've had a little chance to step away from them for a bit. So let's just pop that out of the way for the moment, clear some of that gubbins. I have, what else do I have? So let me see. So some of these pieces are separated, and that's cool. There we are. So we might add Yeah, I think that's going to sit nicely down there. You like the? I'm glad you like it. It's you know, I'm a great believer in mixing, matching, having a good play, and yeah, we can all this way use what we can get hold of. She says, ouch, ouch, ouch. But there we are. And I tend to like to have stuff. Let me just grab the end of that brush and push that into there. There we are. So we're adding our mixtures. And I tend to like things in threes, but you've become separated from your leaves. So we might just pop this one into there off the end. And then that can tuck underneath there. So we now have something that is, we've got 3 areas of pumpkins. We've got 3 areas of flowers. We've mixed them all together a little bit, and we've got plenty of components, and we've still got bits left. And at this point, we can add, if we wanted to, some little berries. So this is just a faux blackberry. So I've got, you know, but you could just as easily add in some nuts, seeds, you know, whatever you've picked up off the off the floor of the local woods will work just as well. Let's just tuck that into there. You can see I'm sort of working in odd numbers, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. It's about what's going to work for you. And we can add a little bit more moss if we want to, particularly to disguise some of these areas of hot glue that have a habit of poking their way out. So let me just grab a little bit, because I can see hot glue here that's irritating me. So I'm going to tuck that into there. And that will work for me, there and there. And of course, one of the problems of a 3-dimensional project is it is just that. It's 3-dimensional. So, having done one side, we have a second to go. And that is fine, because that was the plan. Which is why I did as many pieces as I did. Yeah. And that's got something spiky in it. So, there we are. We'll add some of these pieces. These aren't difficult to do, Sarah Lou. It's just about acquiring the bits and the pieces and going for it. But I love them. And of course, they make wonderful seasonal gifts as well as home decor pieces. So let me just move that back in line a little bit better. And we'll tuck that out of the way. So I know I've got a big pumpkin here and a big pumpkin there. So I'm going to balance these. And these will poke out above, which is why having extra pieces is a good move, I think. There we are. Let's just wiggle that into there. So that can go there. Let's find some more of these pieces that we lovingly prepared earlier, because there's no point in preparing stuff and not using it, though there is definitely a point of less is more. There we are. That one can go in there. Where's my stick? There's my stick. So we'll add that one to there. I'm glad you like it. I think that's a bit big, isn't it? But let's just chop a piece of that down. Hopefully that will go into there. And we've got 3 on the front. So we might just go for 2 areas on the back. We might not. We might change our mind. On the other hand, we might not. So let's just pop that into there. And then we're going to add a little one. And let's pop that gourd into there. Oh, she says, throwing it around the place. There we are. That will help with that. And of course, one of the joys of making stuff for yourself is that actually you can, if you haven't made enough components, actually you can quite happily make some more later on. So let's pop that there, and we're going to add that piece into there too. So hopefully, and what have we got? We've got more greenery. Let's chop that off. I'm hoping that some of you will have the courage to pick up some of these mediums and have a jolly good play, and just experiment and have fun with your home decorations. We don't have to have everything Halloween and gothic-y. There might be some of that coming up in a couple of weeks' time, but for now we'll stick with non-Halloween, I think, and go truly autumnal. So we're going to pop that into there, and remembering, of course, these pieces will be seen through because of the way they are, so that these can tuck into there. So I'm deliberately leaving spaces so that I can see stuff poking through the other side, because then it will help with the overall effect. Well, if you've got lots of mediums and lots of things to play with, then actually it's such a good way of being able to make, isn't it? Is to to be able to just grab what you have. But yeah, I'm lucky and I'm spoilt and I've got lots of different things, and I'm very much aware of that. But I do think that over time, most of the crafters I know acquire a lot of things, a huge amount of things, in fact, of different styles, and then we sit there and we forget how to use them. So so I do think sometimes it's quite helpful to have someone else providing some ideas and some structure to what's being done, or to reinvigorate your love for products that you bought a long time ago that maybe you've forgotten you had, or before anyone thinks that this is this was silly, I used 2 or 3 pumpkin picks, and these packs of the Helichrysum are £1.99 each, so really actually quite cheap for the amount of flowers that you get. So, which means that, yes, like any home decor piece, it's going to, where you're using a mountain of stuff, it will add up. It doesn't need to be silly amounts of money overall. And of course, let's just tuck that so we're a bit more tilted. So I can see I have a gap here. I've probably used more hot glue than anything else. And as I say, I think that sometimes you are probably better off using your gel medium, but not in the middle of a live, because they'll be here. You just couldn't turn these around in the same way if it was, if we weren't, if I was doing these all completely from scratch with gel medium as the as my glue of choice. So, and now I'm just literally going to use some of the pieces that I've got to fill spaces up, because that's what you do, isn't it? So I have no floristry training whatsoever. I just like to mess, and until I'm happy with how things ultimately appear for me. Now I can see horrible great big splodges of gel of hot glue, which we're now going to promptly cover up, because why would I want to be able to see big splodges of hot glue? And as I say, that's the advantage of using lots of the, having things like the moss to tuck in and around, because it's a great hider of things. So yeah, just grab yourself whatever autumn embellishments you've got. Sarah, yes, I absolutely used to be a surgeon. I spent many years working in the Children's Hospital in Manchester, operating on premature babies. Hence my alternative Facebook name and my Instagram profile, which is the Crafty Surgeon, because actually crafting was the thing I would come home to relax after a busy day at work. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't like that. I've got 4 of those, so let's just stick another one of those into there. Now then, I can still see some bits of hot glue there, and I know I've just added some more hot glue to cover the hot glue, but hey ho, we'll just add that into there because that will disguise that little bit. I've got one of those. I do have another piece of that, so I think we might well stick that on that end, and then, ladies, we might call it a day for tonight. So here we are. We have, except I can see more bits of hot glue that I don't want to be able to see, so let me just tuck some of this into there, because that will disguise that nicely. I want to tuck that back a little bit. So this is the importance of watching and seeing what you're doing and having a little check from all angles before you finish. So I tuck that there, and then you can disguise the bits that you don't like quite happily with little pieces you've got left out. I tend to always end up preparing far more than I actually need, but it's easier to do that. So that is the back of our piece. Let me just clear some of this mess out the way for you, because we've got assorted stuff. So that is the back of the piece. I will de-strand it, and this is the front of our piece. Again, there's an area where there's a bit more glue visible than I really want, so I'm going to tuck another flower into here. I'm going to move that out of the way. See, there we are, and that piece can go into there, and that will cover the hot glue there. And I'm just going to tip it forward to make sure I haven't exposed more hot glue in the process. So there we are, ladies and gentlemen. One autumnal home decor piece using stuff that you can pick up relatively cheaply from local floristry wholesalers and different craft stores. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing some of you next week on Crafting Together with All Brands. Now then, let's just move my thing. So we're going to end now, and obviously, I wish you all a pleasant evening and that you stay safe with whatever you're doing. Bye.